Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. In this tutorial, we're going to use the item from day 6 in our Artistry advent calendar to create this wooden Valentine's Day themed board. Now I know it's after Christmas, but we did have to take a little bit of a pause with this 12-day series, but we are no quitters over here, so we are going to finish it out by using those items and creating things for Valentine's Day and spring. Y'all know I'm always on the look for unique trays and boards. I really loved the color of this one, but it already had a pattern up top. It was on clearance at Hobby Lobby at the end of spring of 2022. So I just grabbed it up and decided that I could take this very, very thin layer of resin, if that's even what is on here, and pop that off, sand down the paint that was underneath, and I can create something a little bit different. After I had went all around the edges and scraped off any of that excess, I'm going to take some sandpaper and just lightly buff out some of that paint that is on the board and just sand down and smooth out my corners so that my epoxy and my layers have something to adhere to. I have actually switched up from using my typical wet dry sandpaper to using auto sandpaper. It seems to work so much better and it lasts a lot longer. I do pay a little bit more for it, but in my opinion, it is well worth it. So I'm using 80 grit auto body sandpaper. You can find that over in the auto section. I got mine at Walmart, close by like where the oil and filters and things like that is. After we have this board all cleaned off from sanding, I'm going to go in with a couple layers of Hollyberry COLORFLEX paint. Now, I didn't really need this to be super thick, or it didn't matter to me if you could see through it just a little bit. The glitter that we are going to use from the Advent box is going to have excellent coverage. I just gave this 2 coats of paint, really thin coats, and then went in with my COLORFLEX glitter glue to apply our glitter. After I have my glue nice and smooth, I'm going to go in with Fireside glitter. This is a really pretty custom mix that not only is a really awesome Christmas color, but I can see this being used obviously for Valentine's Day, but it's a great summer color with the oranges and red in there, and it can be used for some really bold spring colors as well. After I have this fully coated, I am going to take a sheet of printer paper and just lay it down flat on top of this and sort of pat that glitter down so that we can minimize the amount of layers of epoxy that we have to put on top of this to get it nice and smooth. Now, once I went over with my printer paper, I did go around the edges. I didn't show it here with my hand, and just press all of that glitter away from the edge, and then removed my tape that I had put on there for our paint. I'm going to give this 2 coats of epoxy and sand it down really nice and smooth, and make sure I do get my edges as well in case there was any remaining pokey bits on the side. I'm going to tape this back off so that we don't get any of our adhesive on our wooden areas and get our lines nice and smooth. And then I'm just going to take a couple small pieces of this painter's tape. This is a 1-inch painter's tape, and use that as a guide to separate my lines. We're going to take our stripes all the way up our board and then go in with our glue. We're going to be using the Southern Belle Glitter Full Glue to apply our fulls to our stripes. This glue is super sticky. I think in the last tutorial that I used it in, I said I could probably throw my tumbler at a wall and it would stick. Definitely don't do that, but I was just trying to explain how tacky this stuff really is and how it really grabs a hold of your fulls. You don't need much at all. I'm just going to use my makeup brush so I can get nice and smooth coverage and apply that in between our stripes, making sure that I do take it all the way to the edges. After I have applied my adhesive, I'm just going to go ahead and remove all of those stripes. Go over with my heat gun for just a second to make sure that it is dry completely before I go in with our full. We're using Calligraphy from Southern Belle Glitter. This is like a bluish black. It's almost like a gunmetal color. And I'm going to roll out just a big enough sheet to cover this area, lay it as flat as I can, and then you can use a squeegee tool or the wooden stick that comes with your rub-on transfers from Southern Belle Glitter. My friend Barbara at Dazo Designs had sent me this really cute truck file for Valentine's Day, so I decided to use them for this board. And since I have a Creative Fabrica subscription, all I have to do is click that download button and I download whatever I want on that entire platform for free. You can sign up for Creative Fabrica for free for your first month. You get 10 free downloads or 1 full month, whichever comes first, and it renews at $9 a month after that, which is well more than what I was paying for just a single file before I had my Creative Fabrica subscription. Okay, so this file did not come, or this bundle did not come with elements. However, I really didn't like how the flowers just kind of stopped on the back of the truck, so I wanted to add a little bit more. So I grabbed one of the truck files and saw this flower was sort of sticking up from the back, and I cropped it out from the image and used that little erase tool and imported just the flower itself so that we can add a little bit more of these elements to the back of this truck. Once I have both of these in Design Space, I'm going to resize that truck to 4 inches wide, and then I'm going to take these little flowers that we added in and just place them around the floral cluster on the back of the truck to sort of just make it look a little more realistic or fluffier. I don't know how to really put it, but I just didn't like how the flowers just kind of rounded off at the back of the truck. I wanted to add just a little bit more. Once I add all of these elements in, I'm going to highlight the entire thing and select flatten. That's going to flatten the image and create one, so it cuts as one and is not going to cut out all of these additional flowers that I put on here separately. Now, I've got a lot of questions with my floral designs, how to eliminate so many teeny tiny spots that your machine has to cut and takes forever to cut. A good way to help eliminate some of those tiny spots is to highlight your image, create a 0.015 offset, and that will help eliminate some of those harsh lines and teeny tiny spots in between your flowers. I will warn you, if it is a large file or if it has a ton of those tiny spots, your design space is going to go into overload mode and it will never create that offset. But in the case that it does create the offset for you, you're going to highlight your offset and your image together and select flatten once again so it cuts as one image with that hairline offset. Now I took some of those additional flowers that we pulled in and just duplicated them so that we can cut some additional flowers to fill in areas on the board. And then I used the print to cut feature with my Buttercrafts printable vinyl. This is my favorite printable vinyl. It has been forever and a day since I replaced my blade on my machine, and this vinyl is still cutting beautifully. Now, since our wooden board has been sanded and I cannot spray seal this printable vinyl in, I'm going to use the Artistry glitter glue. I'm just going to do a thin layer of glue on top of my images and dry that up with my heat gun before I apply them to my board. Now, I don't know if it's happened to you before. It has me on rare occasions, but sometimes Design Space does its own thing, and for whatever reason, it will cut a slice directly in the middle of your image. It was frustrating me so bad because this was the second time I cut this, and for whatever reason, it cut a slice right down the center of the florals that are on the back of the truck. This was my very last sheet of printable vinyl, so I did go with it for the purpose of the tutorial, but I would never put this in a customer hand with a slice going directly down the flowers. You're going to want to remove all of that excess vinyl while your glue is still wet, and then you can dry up the glue on your image or just allow it to sit and dry on its own. Once I had all of my images on there, I did make sure that they were pressed down really well before I went in with my 2 final layers of epoxy. After I apply this first layer of epoxy, we are going to add in a little additional sparkle on top of our stripes using Cinnamon Cider, which was the alternative glitter that could have come in day 6 of the Advent box. Now, when you're working with a board or something that has edges like this that the epoxy can go over, you want to take your epoxy thin up to the edge but not over the edge. If it goes over, it does create a pathway for the epoxy just to continue to seep over the edge. If you just so happen to get some over that side or over a corner, just clean that up with a clean glove, and that will stop it from continuing to go over the edge. Make sure that you are using a good grip painter's tape so that the epoxy does not seep underneath the bottom, and you'll want to remove that tape after your epoxy has set up pretty well so that you have a nice crisp line. I hope that y'all have enjoyed this tutorial and you love how this turned out as well. If you have any questions, just drop them in the comments down below and I will answer them as quickly as possible. All materials that I have used will be listed down in the description below with some coupon codes for y'all. That is all for today. Thank you all so much, and we will see you next time.